I let my cheating husband plan his dream wedding with his mistress, then revealed she was actually my sister. The morning I found those text messages on his phone, my world completely shattered into a million pieces. My husband of 8 years had been having an affair for the past 6 months, and the woman he was texting about future plans and romantic getaways wasn't some random stranger. She was someone I knew very well, someone who had been coming to our house for family dinners and holiday celebrations. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife could have, and I felt like I was drowning in my own living room. Instead of confronting him immediately like any normal person would do, I decided to take a different approach. I wanted to see exactly how far this relationship would go, and more importantly, I wanted to understand what was really happening between them. So I pretended like nothing had changed, continued making breakfast every morning, and watched him text her right in front of me. The audacity was breathtaking, but I kept my composure and played the perfect unsuspecting wife. Over the next few weeks, I started paying closer attention to their conversations whenever I could sneak a peek at his phone. They were planning a future together, talking about moving in together, and even discussing marriage plans. My heart broke a little more each day, but I also felt this strange sense of detachment, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. The woman he was texting seemed to know everything about our marriage, our financial situation, and even our personal problems that I thought were private. What really shocked me was how detailed their plans had become in such a short time. They had already picked out potential wedding venues, discussed guest lists, and even talked about what kind of house they wanted to buy together. It was like they had been planning this betrayal for years, not months. The level of planning and preparation made me realize that this wasn't just a simple affair or a moment of weakness. This was a calculated decision to destroy my marriage and build something new from the ashes. The breaking point came when I overheard him on the phone late one night, talking about how he was going to ask for a divorce soon. He was telling this woman that he just needed to figure out the best way to approach the conversation with me, and that he wanted to make sure he protected his assets during the separation. Hearing him talk about me like I was just an obstacle to overcome rather than his wife of 8 years was devastating. But it also gave me the motivation I needed to take action. Instead of confronting him about the affair, I decided to play along with his plans in a way that would expose the truth. I started being extra supportive of his late nights at work, his weekend trips with friends, and even his sudden interest in fitness and new clothes. I complimented him when he came home smelling like perfume, and I didn't question why he was suddenly so secretive about his phone. My behavior confused him at first, but he seemed to interpret it as me being oblivious to what was happening. The next phase of my plan required some serious detective work and a lot of patience. I needed to find out more about this woman and understand exactly what she knew about our situation. So I started following her social media accounts, learning about her daily routines, and even showed up at places where I knew she would be. It took me about a month to piece together the full picture, but what I discovered was more shocking than I could have ever imagined. This woman wasn't just some random person he had met at work or through friends. She was someone with a direct connection to our family, someone who had been in our lives for years. The realization hit me like a freight train when I finally put all the pieces together. She had been planning this betrayal for much longer than 6 months, and she had been using information about our marriage that only someone very close to us could have known. The moment I confirmed her identity, everything started making sense in the most horrible way possible. All those family gatherings where she seemed overly interested in our relationship. All those conversations where she asked probing questions about our marriage, and all those times she offered to help with our personal problems. She had been gathering intelligence and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The level of manipulation and deception was beyond anything I had ever experienced. But here's where the story takes a turn that even I wasn't expecting. When I finally confronted her directly, she broke down completely and confessed something that changed everything. She told me that she had been hired by someone to seduce my husband and destroy our marriage. Someone had been paying her to tear apart our relationship, and she had been following a very specific plan that included detailed information about our personal lives and vulnerabilities. The person who had hired her was someone I trusted completely, someone who had access to our home, our finances, and our most intimate secrets. When she finally revealed who it was, I felt like the ground had disappeared from under my feet. It was my own sister, the person I had confided in about every problem in my marriage, the person who had been encouraging me to work things out with my husband while secretly paying someone to destroy our relationship. My sister had been planning this betrayal for over a year, using every conversation we had as ammunition against my marriage. She had been feeding information to this woman, helping her understand exactly how to manipulate my husband's weaknesses and insecurities. The whole affair had been orchestrated by someone who was supposed to love and protect me, and the level of betrayal was beyond anything I could have imagined. The confrontation with my sister was the most difficult conversation of my entire life. She tried to justify her actions by claiming that she was trying to save me from an unhappy marriage, that she could see how miserable I was, and that she thought I deserved better. But the truth was much more selfish and cruel than her explanations. She had been jealous of my marriage, my house, and my life for years, and she had decided to destroy everything I had built rather than work on her own problems. What made it even worse was discovering that my husband had no idea about the larger conspiracy. He genuinely believed that he had fallen in love with this woman naturally, and he had no clue that their entire relationship was built on lies and manipulation. When I finally revealed the truth to him, he was as shocked and devastated as I was. The woman he thought he loved didn't actually exist, and the whole relationship had been a carefully constructed illusion. The aftermath of these revelations was like trying to navigate through a minefield while blindfolded. My husband wanted to reconcile and rebuild our marriage, but the trust had been completely shattered. My sister tried to apologize and make amends, but the damage was irreversible. The woman who had been hired to destroy my marriage disappeared completely, probably moving on to her next assignment with a different family. Dealing with the legal implications was another nightmare entirely. There were questions about fraud, emotional manipulation, and whether any laws had actually been broken. The whole situation was so bizarre and unprecedented that even our family attorney had trouble figuring out how to handle it. Insurance companies got involved, bank accounts were frozen, and our entire financial situation became a complicated mess that took months to sort out. The emotional toll on everyone involved was devastating in ways I never could have anticipated. My husband struggled with the realization that his feelings had been manipulated, and he went through a period of serious depression and confusion. My sister's other relationships started falling apart as people learned what she had done, and she basically became a social pariah in our community. Even extended family members had to choose sides, and many family gatherings became awkward or impossible. But the most difficult part was figuring out how to move forward with my own life. The betrayal had come from multiple directions, and I felt like I couldn't trust anyone anymore. Every relationship felt suspicious, every conversation felt like a potential trap, and every new person I met could have been another hired manipulator. The paranoia and anxiety were overwhelming, and I found myself questioning everything I had ever believed about love, family, and loyalty. Months later, I'm still trying to piece together what actually happened and why. There are still unanswered questions about how long my sister had been planning this, whether other people were involved, and how many other aspects of my life had been manipulated without my knowledge. The investigation is ongoing, and new details keep emerging that make the situation even more complicated and disturbing. The strange thing is that going through this experience has taught me more about myself than I ever expected. I discovered that I'm much stronger than I thought I was, that I can handle betrayal and deception without completely falling apart, and that I have the ability to uncover the truth even when everyone around me is lying. The process of investigating and exposing the conspiracy gave me a sense of purpose and control that I had been missing in my marriage. Looking back now, I can see warning signs that I missed or ignored at the time. My sister's questions about my marriage were too detailed and specific. The timing of the affair coincided with several family events where she had been present, and the woman's knowledge of our personal information should have been a red flag. But hindsight is always clearer than real-time decision-making, and I was dealing with people I trusted completely. The most surprising outcome of this whole ordeal has been the support I've received from unexpected places. Neighbors who barely knew me started checking in regularly. Coworkers offered practical help with legal and financial issues, and even strangers who heard about the situation reached out with similar stories and advice. It turns out that family betrayal and manipulation are more common than most people realize, and there's a whole community of people who understand exactly what I went through. As for my marriage, we're still figuring out whether it can be saved, or if we should just accept that too much damage has been done. The foundation of trust has been completely destroyed, but we're both victims of the same conspiracy, which creates a strange kind of bond between us. We're taking things one day at a time, going to counseling together, and trying to rebuild something new from the wreckage of what we thought we had. My relationship with my sister is probably over forever, which is one of the saddest aspects of this whole situation. She was my best friend and confidant for most of my life, and losing that relationship feels like losing a part of myself. The woman I thought I knew doesn't actually exist, and the person who orchestrated this betrayal is someone I can never trust or forgive. The grief over losing that relationship has been almost as difficult as dealing with the betrayal itself. The legal proceedings are still ongoing, and there might be criminal charges filed depending on what the investigation uncovers. There are questions about whether what happened constitutes fraud, identity theft, or some other crime that hasn't been clearly defined yet. The whole situation has attracted attention from legal experts who are interested in the precedent it might set for similar cases in the future. One of the most difficult aspects of moving forward has been dealing with the public nature of the situation. Word has spread throughout our community, and people have opinions about what happened and how everyone involved should be handled. Some people are supportive and understanding, while others seem to think that family drama should be kept private regardless of how serious the betrayal was. The judgment and gossip have added another layer of stress to an already impossible situation. But despite everything that's happened, I'm starting to feel hopeful about the future in a way that surprises me. The experience has forced me to reevaluate every aspect of my life and relationships, and I'm discovering parts of myself that I never knew existed. I'm more independent, more cautious, but also more confident in my ability to handle whatever life throws at me. The betrayal was devastating, but it also freed me from relationships and situations that were unhealthy and unsustainable. The woman who was hired to destroy my marriage never contacted me again after the truth came out. But I often wonder about her story and whether she was also being manipulated in ways she didn't understand. The whole situation involved so many layers of deception and manipulation that it's hard to know where the truth ends and the lies begin. Everyone involved was both a victim and a perpetrator in different ways, which makes it difficult to assign blame or find closure. Moving forward, I'm focusing on building new relationships based on honesty and transparency, rather than trying to repair the ones that were built on lies. It's scary to start over at this stage of my life, but it's also exciting to have the opportunity to create something authentic and genuine. The experience has taught me what red flags to watch for, what questions to ask, and how to protect myself without becoming completely paranoid or isolated. The most important lesson I've learned is that betrayal says more about the person doing the betraying than it does about the person being betrayed. My sister's actions were driven by her own insecurities and jealousy, not by any failure on my part. My husband's vulnerability to manipulation was a result of his own issues and weaknesses, not because I was a bad wife. Understanding this has helped me avoid blaming myself for what happened and focus on healing and moving forward. This whole experience has been the most difficult and painful thing I've ever gone through, but it's also been oddly liberating in some ways. I'm no longer tied to relationships that were built on lies and manipulation. I'm no longer naive about the lengths people will go to hurt each other, and I'm no longer afraid of being alone or starting over. The betrayal was devastating, but surviving it has made me stronger and more resilient than I ever thought possible. The investigation continues, the legal proceedings are ongoing, and there are still many unanswered questions about what happened and why. But for the first time in months, I feel like I'm in control of my own life and my own future. The people who tried to destroy me ultimately freed me from a situation that wasn't serving me, and for that, I'm actually grateful. The truth is painful, but it's also liberating, and I'm finally ready to start building something new and authentic from the ashes of what was destroyed.